The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. We're going to call to order the Monday, February 8th, 2021 meeting of the Space Coast TPO Technical Advisory Committee. And if you would stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So the first order of business is to establish that we have a physically present quorum of the Technical Advisory Committee, and I believe we do. Let's get confirmation from staff.
Good morning. I'm Lisa Hickman, the Space Coast TPO office specialist. And I would like to do a roll call for attendance, please. And this will just be for the folks that are in the room. So when I say your name, if you could please let me know that you were here. I have Devin Swanson, Jared Francis, Jenny Lamb, Liz Allward, KB, Mr. Morgan.
Here.
Cliff Graham. Here. Steve Zabel. I have Jason Mahaney. Robert Musser. Here. Abigail Morgan. I have Frank Wanatali. And I have Michael. Right? I'm going to get it right because we just talked about it. Jarosevich, right? Close. Thank you. Did I miss anybody? I'm sorry. Oh, Miss Terry Jordan. I'm sorry. I didn't see you back there. Okay, so we have quorum and we do not have anyone listed that we have virtually, but in case someone does jump online for us, we would like to ask for, we're going to seek motion to allow virtual attendees to vote due to their extenuating circumstances with COVID-19. So per policy and state law, public meetings are required to hold a physical meeting room and quorum. The governor previously had an executive order providing an exemption, but of course that has expired. So members attending virtually are only able to vote if the physical quorum passes, which it has, and a motion to allow virtual actions. So we are seeking that motion to allow virtual attendees to vote.
Can we have a motion for anybody who would come in later virtually? We have a motion from Devin and a second from, yeah.
From KB, I got you.
KB.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. That moves us to the public comment on non-agenda items. Do we have any public comment either here in person at the Center for Collaboration in Rockledge or online? Do we have any online public comments? Yes, looks like we do. Okay.
For those that are attending from the public online, you could have chosen to attend either computer or via smartphone, telephone, or appear in person here at the Center for Collaboration. You are also able to watch online on our YouTube. If you are attending online and you wish to make a public comment, your participation can be used via using the question or an answer box or by raising your hand. Public comment can also be submitted via verbal and written comments after the meeting by emailing Lisa Hickman at lisa.hickman@brevardfl.gov or calling our office at 321-690-6890. Written comments will be accepted no later than 3 business days after the virtual meeting. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Again, not seeing anybody come forward here in person. Do we have any comments online? All right. Seeing none, we'll move to item 4 on the agenda, which is the Executive Director's Report. Feeling a little under the weather, but glad we're able to get Georgiana online.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. Welcome to our first meeting of 2021. First, I want to apologize for not being there in person. I've been under the weather for several days, and although I'm better, you know, the days of coming to work when you're not 100% are pretty much over, and I can appreciate that. I know that we have a lot of existing members. For our new members, I really look forward to meeting you in the near future. We have a lot of exciting things that we're going to be tackling this year, so I think it's going to be a great year. A few things that I do want to bring to your attention. My director's report is on page 3 of your agenda package. Going down to number 3, the Space Coast TPO call for projects. As most of you know, our transportation subcommittee met in January to kind of kick off the project priorities program. We conducted our annual call for projects solicitation, and the applications are due to the TPO by March 15th. These are transportation projects that are looking for state and federal funding. And so for our new members that may be listening, this is one of the most important things we do. If there's any questions throughout this process, I know a few of the municipalities are setting up individual meetings with TPO staff. We are always available for that if there's any questions. Moving to number 4, the TPO member orientation. If you didn't make the TPO board and committee member orientation in January, you can still view the webinar at your convenience. The link is provided in your agenda package. It's just 1-hour session, very high level overview, but it really does set the foundation. And I would highly encourage taking the time to listen. In your agenda, on each item sheet, there is a staff contact that is responsible for that particular agenda item. So please feel free to email or call them if you have any questions. And of course, you know, you can reach me anytime. You are our technical advisory committee members. Your questions, comments, and feedback is extremely important. So please know that we are available at all times. Also wanted to let you know that the MPOAC met on January the 28th in Orlando. That's our Metropolitan Planning Organization Advisory Council, which is a forum of the 27 MPOs, TPOs in the state of Florida. There were a few items discussed I really want to bring to your attention. Of course, President Biden announced the American Rescue Plan, which provided $89 million available for TMAs, transportation management areas of Florida, which is an urbanized area with a population of 200,000 or more. And of course, the Space Coast TPO is a TMA. So funds are coming from general revenue. They are more flexible than usual federal transportation funds. The apportionment table shows that our TPO will be receiving $2.8 million additional funding. And these funds are available for obligation through fiscal year 2024. That's about all we know. We're not really sure what the guidelines are, but please stay tuned. We will keep you up to date as we hear more information about that. There was also discussion that maybe this summer there will be a relief package that will focus on infrastructure specifically, and a new reauthorization bill to focus on policy separately. Of course, this is all speculation. Perhaps in the new reauthorization bill, they will actually tackle, a replacement for the motor fuel tax. But again, we just don't know at this point. And finally, you do have in your package the MPOAC legislative newsletter. And of course, they monitor transportation-related bills on behalf of all of us. As those updates come out, we're going to email those to you so you can be aware of any changes that might be happening. And they show the changes in red, so you don't have to read through, the whole package to be able to understand what the changes are. So very helpful, for all of us to kind of keep our finger on what's going on in the legislature. One of the, we're keeping our eye on Senate Bill 62, and I think especially for our technical committee members, this is important. This would remove regional planning commissions from state statutes. And of course, we work with the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council on special projects. They help secure grant funding for cities and counties. So this is concerning. We want to stand firm with our regional planning councils, where we're not really sure what this is about. We had heard that this was targeted for a specific RPC, maybe on the West Coast, but we are going to ask the TPO governing board on Thursday if we can send a letter opposing this bill. So we'll be discussing that more on Thursday, but that's about all the information that we have on that. But finally, there is a recap of our October 8th governing board action items. We approved the Transportation Resiliency Master Plan scope of work, or I should say the governing board approved it. They approved the Memorandum of Understanding of Regional Cooperation, Transportation Systems Management and Operations. They adopted the Vision Zero Action Plan, and they approved our 2021 legislative priorities and policy positions. You also have the draft governing board meeting minutes of October 8th and the CAC meeting minutes of October 5th. And Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for our Executive Director, Liz?
Hey, Georgiana, this is Liz Allward. Hope you're feeling better soon.
Thank you.
Would it help if you got a motion from the TAC to support opposing the Regional Planning Council Senate Bill 62? I know the city of Satellite Beach, right now we're using them for our CEMP plan update. We're using them for our resiliency plan. And they're really necessary for small cities. We don't have planning staff. So
Absolutely. I think that would be, well, can we take a motion if it's not on the agenda, or perhaps what we can do is, make a recommendation that the TAC fully supports opposing this bill, and then I can take that to the TPO governing board on Thursday.
okay, well, I'll make that motion.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor from Liz, second from Steve. And just understanding the motion, the portion of the bill that deals with the Regional Planning Council dissolution, not necessarily the entirety of the bill. Is that, Georgiana, are you looking for something a little more direct, or the entirety?
I think that it's Senate Bill 62. It would be opposing that specific bill to remove regional planning commissions from state statutes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the entirety of that particular bill.
Correct. That is my understanding.
All right. So everyone's heard the motion. I would agree with Liz that as a small city, we use the planning council for a lot of planning grants. We've been very successful over the years, and they've been very helpful to us. In particular, a couple of planning opportunities that led to our Mitten Corridor study that the TPO is doing some advanced work, and that helped us. So I would be supportive of the motion. Is there any further discussion on the motion to recommend to the board to oppose that? Seeing no one, we will call for the question. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Any other questions for our executive director? Seeing none, we'll move to item 5, which are 5 consent agenda items. Is there a motion on the consent agenda? We have a motion from Cliff and a second from Jenny. Is there any discussion on the motion to approve the consent agenda with one vote? Seeing none, all indicate in favor by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That takes us to item 6. So item 6A is the annual election of officers. We have a motion from Devin. Is there a second? We have a second from Jenny. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And we're looking for a nomination for vice chair. Jenny?
I'll make a motion for Cliff Graham to be the vice chair.
We have a motion from Jenny and a second from Devin. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any other nominations? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Cliff. That takes us to item 6B, which is the fiscal 21 list of proposed project amendment number 1, a single amendment item.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Crom. I'm the Senior Transportation Planner with the Space Coast TPO. We are proposing amendment number 1 to the list of project priorities. What the amendment would do would be adding a Parish Park Trailhead project to the list of project priorities. What the project includes is improved trail parking as well as also improved access to the Indian River Lagoon for non-motorized boats such as kayaks and canoes. It would also improve the drainage and it would help with sections of stabilization. The whole causeway really needs a stabilization project, but this would improve that general area along the Max Brewer Bridge, which is also along the coast to coast and St. Johns River to Sea Loop. The project was a Federal Lands Access Program grant, which did not require it to previously be on the project priority list. And so that's why it's not on the list, is because the initial funding source didn't require it. At this time, there are overages in the project, and to ensure that the project is able to keep moving forward, as well as also for planning consistency, because the project is within our TIP, we are hoping to amend our project priority list to include it. And I'll take any questions.
All right. Do we have any questions for Sarah? Seeing none, are we ready for a motion? We have a motion from Cliff and a second. I'm gonna get your name right. KB. Oh my gosh. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Sarah. That takes us to item 6C, which is a proposed resolution, recommending a resolution to the board on project funding guidelines.
Good morning. I'm Laura Carter, the Assistant Director of the Space Coast TPO. Before you today, we have a resolution outlining some guidelines that basically have historically, we use these guidelines to coordinate with the Florida Department of Transportation when we are funding our project priorities. The reason why we're pursuing adoption of these guidelines in a formal manner today is to ensure consistency with how the different funding sources, specifically the TPO's SU funds, are used to program projects. We're also quite aware that in this day and age, there's a lot of staffing changes, and having something formal in writing will allow, if those changes occur either at the DOT, at the TPO, or even when we have political elections, that there's a consistent approach applied to using the different funding sources with our projects. So I want to start off, as we all know, the largest pot of funding is the state's Strategic Intermodal System, or ASSIST. These roadways have a dedicated funding source, the largest pot, and we are recommending in the guidelines that the DOT just continue to use SIS revenues on SIS facilities. Our major projects, we are advising to use the District Dedicated Revenues, our DDR, DS, and our Surface Transportation Program funds, SA funds. Just use those on our major TPO projects. Transportation Alternatives, TA, is another funding source that historically they focus on multimodal projects, bicycle, pedestrian, and trails. And we'd like to continue to use the BPAC, as we always have, to make recommendations on which projects should utilize the limited TA fundings that we get each year. All of our projects, as we continue to move forward, should be considered for our creative funding opportunities, such as private and public partnerships, utilization of SCTPO, or our Transportation Regional Significant Program, those types of funding sources. Now, I'd like to focus on specifically the Surface Transportation Block Grant, as we call it, SU funds. These funds are one of the more flexible funding sources and are the funding source that the TPO has the most control over. They can be used all the way from planning up to construction type projects. The guidelines in the resolution reflect that the TPO shall consult with the state on which projects to place these funds on. This is historically how it is written in also the U.S. Code. So there's nothing new there. It's just clarifying it. Previous guidance to staff has been to finish what has already been started with these funds and to also focus on off-system first. Does not mean that we won't use our SU funds on state roadways. It just means that the state roadways, we are all aware, have more funding sources than our off-system roadways, and to focus these limited funding sources on those projects first. So there are many times, it seems, throughout the year that additional SU funding becomes available. The reasons could be that an existing SU project has come in underfunded or under budget, or that there's been fund swapping within the DOT to take advantage of different funding sources, or some other reasons. Typically, they are not large sums of money, but are likely in the current year. And what that means is when these funds become available, they have to be placed on a project that can take them immediately and typically be spent within the existing year. The guidelines are just clarifying that the executive director shall have authority to identify which projects to put those on, and that there are times she may seek guidance and information from the committees and the board to do so. So at all times, the DOT should consult with the executive director before moving funds within the work program. That is one of the areas we want to make sure is clear, to ensure that the TPO's priorities is what's getting funded first and not being put on other projects where there's other options for different types of funds. So that was pretty quick. In summary, the guidelines are just formalizing what we've always done in the past. And we're hoping that this will just continue the coordination and communication that we have between the staff and the DOT. So today we're requesting approval of Resolution 21-11, our project funding guidelines. And at any time in the future, I'd like to point out if there's any changes that want to be made and guiding staff on how to use our funds, these can be revisited and the guidelines can be revised. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Do we have any questions on this proposed resolution to the board? Steve?
Yeah, I understand that you can have some flexibility in these deadlines, so I like to apply.
Wait, hold on just a moment, because nobody online can hear you.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
I like the last number 6, especially because it I think it allows some flexibility in what the TPO considers. Is there any breakdown by project phase, whether it's PD&E, design, right away, construction, as far as the prioritization goes?
No, there would not be. We would always refer to whatever the phase is in our project priorities, what phase is needing funding next.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Other questions? Yeah, I think there's also opportunity for individual organizations to advise FDOT on 5-year work program amendments as they come. But I think the notion is sometimes those reprogramming decisions have to be made fairly quickly and those dollars allocated fairly quickly. So I think this is a good flexible resolution to adopt. Obviously, our executive officer is going to be looking at the board's previously adopted priorities and to support reallocations that support those priorities. So I'm in favor of the resolution. Are there other comments or discussion, or are we ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion of approving the resolution.
All right, we have a motion from Devin. Is there a second?
Second motion.
We have a second from Cliff. Is there discussion on the motion to recommend that the board adopt resolution 2111? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. That takes us to item 7, presentations. So the first presentation is from the Florida Department of Transportation. And it's on page 67 of your agenda.
Okay, and it's on? Yep. All right, well, good morning, everybody. I'm Kathy Alexander, Program Management Administrator over at District 5, and I'm here to present to you all the tentative work program fiscal years 22 through 26. So what is the work program? The work program is a representation of the transportation needs that we have for the department for the upcoming 5 years, fiscal years 22 through 26. This includes projects that involve public transit, seaport, airport, and rail projects, as well as spaceport. And it also includes anything from transportation planning, transportation management and operations, as well as planning, design, right-of-way, construction activities. Now, these needs are identified through collaboration of our local partners. And although we don't take the lead in the public transit, seaport, airport, and rail projects, those projects are included in our work program with representation from those agencies. We manage our work program in terms of fiscal years, and the fiscal year runs from July 1st of one year to the June 30th of following. So our first fiscal year that we're talking about here is fiscal year 22. That will begin July of this year, and it runs until June 30th of next year. The type of projects that we include in our work program are safety and security projects, any type of system and maintenance preservation, pedestrian and bicycle enhancements, any multimodal enhancements, as well as operational and capacity improvements. Now, in relation to our state strategic systems, those are based on the needs of the department as well as the priorities set by the TPO. There are other activities that are also included in our tentative work program, and that could be planning studies, traffic studies, any kind of localized improvements, as well as any emergency repair. What you see here is how we develop our tentative work program. Right now, we're in our adopted work program, which is fiscal years 21 through 25. We go through the process of review and approval of the tentative. It becomes the adopted. Our first year is the lockdown year, and it's set that way for budgetary purposes. So any changes to that lockdown year may require administrative approval from Tallahassee. Then we have the remaining 4 years. So what we do in the process of developing our tentative is we develop the new 5th year, and we adjust the programming for the remaining years. Once the 5th year is developed, the first year projects are complete, we have our tentative work program, and it's the new upcoming 5-year plan, which here represents fiscal years 22 through 26. And what you see here is a representation of the traffic needs for each one of those years in our tentative work program. Now, a lot of effort goes into developing our tentative work program, so it is still subject to change until it is adopted on July 1st. In terms of how we came to our tentative work program this cycle, everything kicks off on July 1st. That's also when we receive the priority list from our local TPOs. We gather all the needs from the department as well as the priorities from the TPO and our local partners and our local agencies. We assess all of those needs against what our programs and whatever our allocations and revenues may be. We try to meet the targets and the programs of those. We vet out the projects throughout the summer. And so that way we can then balance and finalize our tentative work program. One key activity that takes place on a yearly basis is the Revenue Estimating Conference. And in this case, for this cycle, there was one in August, and there was also a follow-up in December for transportation revenues. Now, what is critical to that activity is that is where we receive the revenues and allocations and the projected forecasting for what the resources are going to be available to the district to build our work program. Unfortunately, this year we were faced with the challenge that there was going to be shortfalls. So we were faced with the task of trying to figure out all the needs against that shortfall. As we developed the tentative, we came up against our December 18th date. Typically, we receive those revenue allocations and forecasts in September. For this cycle, they were actually received in November. So it was challenging to try to get everything done in a 1-month time frame, but we did, and that was the information that was used for our public information hearing, which was held the second week of January. As a result of the public hearing, that we were open to any kind of public comments, so we can put it in public record. The due date for that was January 29th. And as we move forward with getting our work program adopted, we have the upcoming February 12th deadline for TPO written objections. The Florida Transportation Commission will also review the tentative work program. This is the compiled list from all the districts put together, and they'll hold a workshop where they'll review that. Then the information is provided to the Office of the Governor, where they'll review it as well before it goes to legislature. The legislature session begins March 2nd, and it runs until April 30th. And then ultimately, once it's approved and reviewed, and it's all said and done, it will become our adopted work program on July 1st. I mentioned some of the shortfalls that we experienced this year. Overall, as a state, we were looking a little bit over $1.4 billion. I don't think that was a surprise to many people given the conditions that were going on with the pandemic, but there were several factors that contributed to that. We continue to see enhancements with fuel efficiency vehicles. That means there's less gas consumption, less gas purchases going on. That's affecting our revenue stream. We're also seeing an increase in real estate prices, 7.1% across the state. That's also impacting what we have available for projects. And then we have the pandemic. Unfortunately, with the situation, there was a lot of people that were telecommuting, that were teleworking from home, which means there was less vehicles on the roads, less gas consumption, also affecting our revenue. In terms of the district, I mentioned there was 1.4 over that for the state. For the district, we were seeing shortfalls of $100 million over the upcoming 5 years. The bulk of that was taking place in the current year, fiscal year 21. It was $80 million. So we were faced with the situation of what could we do to address that shortfall. There was still shortfalls in the upcoming 4 to the 5. So if we were going to affect projects, we want to make sure that that impact was really low. We didn't want to defer projects more than 2 years. And if we needed to offset any kind of funding, maybe spread out across the years. We also wanted to stay true to any existing contracts that we had and make sure that we stay true to any debt service payments, and also maintain the system and preservation of our roadways. What you see here is the breakdown of FiveYear Outlook for Brevard County. Overall, we have a $4.9 billion work program, of which you see 890, almost 900 million is dedicated to Brevard, is already programmed in our tentative. And here's the breakout per year. Here you see the breakout of the categories. We have safety, capacity, preservation, multimodal, operations, bike ped improvements, and miscellaneous. And there's the breakout for each one of those across the 5-year. All right, going into project highlights. Here's where we have representative programming for Brevard County. The first projects are a couple of capacity improvement projects. We have 426-905-4. This is the St. John's Heritage Parkway, Ellis Road. There's widening. Right away has tentative programming in 22 to 26. Next, we have the State Road 528, East State Road 524, Industry Road to East of State Road 3. Here we have right away also programmed in years 24 through 26. An extension of 528, East of State Road 3 to Port Canaveral interchange. Also widening right away is programmed 24 through 26. We have the NASA Causeway Bridge. This is a bridge replacement project. Here we have construction in 22. Miscellaneous construction project. This is Space Commerce Way, State Road 405, NASA Parkway to Kennedy Parkway. And this is in construction in 22. Next, we have some operational improvement. This is on State Road 500, US 192 at Hollywood Boulevard. Here we have design in 22 in the upcoming year with right-of-way 22 through 24, and then construction is programmed in 24. Next, we have State Road A1A, south of International Drive to Long Point Road. Also some miscellaneous construction. We have right-of-way program 22 through 26 and construction in fiscal year 26. Another operational improvement, this is Wickham Road at I-95 ramp improvements and mast arm improvements in that area as well. We have construction that's programmed in fiscal year 22. Traffic signal improvements on State Road 518, Ugali Boulevard at Wickham Road. This has construction programmed in fiscal year 23. And we have ITS improvements that are taking place in Brevard County as well. This is along NASA Boulevard, Wickham Road to US 1. The design of this will begin in fiscal year 22. Another ITS operational improvement project, and this is set for 22 through 26. Now we have some bike path and trail projects. We have the Space Coast Trail, Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge to Playa Linda parking lot. This has environmental taking place in fiscal year 23. A sidewalk improvement project along State Road A1A. This is right-of-way planned for 22 through 24. Another sidewalk project along NASA Boulevard, Gateway Drive to Eddie Allen Road. This is construction in fiscal year 24. I mentioned how we had some decisions that we had to make in terms of deferring and adjusting projects. This was actually one that we had to take place of. This was really a dual. It was more to adjust some of the Sun Trail funding that was on this project. And it was deleted from 22 while they reassessed that Sun Trail funding. And that concludes the presentation for the tentative work program from FDOT. Are there any questions?
All right, do we have any questions? Very good presentation, very good overview. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
On the 528 widening, does that include improvement to the infrastructure besides widening the roadway? I think we have utilities that run under 528 or through 528?
I will have to confirm for you, but if it was impacted, I'm sure it would be affected and it would have to be included, but I will confirm for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Robert.
Good morning, Kathy. Thank you for the presentation. Wanted to just mention the 3 items that Port Canaveral had submitted as comments. One of them is actually the did I do that? One of them is very similar to the one that Georgiana submitted for the tentative work program regarding State Road 528 and supporting the additional 2.5 million to include the widening expansion for designing the elevated bridge portion between Merritt Island and the port. The other 2 items, I believe this item for State Road 401 is actually in the planning phase right now, but it wasn't shown on any of the DOT's documents for the review of the work plan. And that's to support the replacement, the study for the replacement of State Road 401, the bridge that is the access to the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station and the cargo portion of the port, which supports commercial space and also port operations. And then the third one was to support the little bit separate from this, but to support the work program for providing funding for the seaport infrastructure projects and programs through the FDOT project for security grant programs at the statewide level. So those were the three that we actually submitted comments on.
Okay.
And one side comment, I think this is something I think we need to have more discussion on. I know it's been discussed at past at the TPO, is coming up with a plan for the reduced revenues, the reduced revenue from gas taxes, and gas taxes becoming less and less, as you mentioned, more fuel efficient vehicles, people driving less. I think that will likely continue through at least this year.
Absolutely.
But that's something that's not only impacting District 5, but it's just impacting districts all over the state, and really need to have a high level discussion on how that can be fixed, because I think that's going to continue for many, many years.
Absolutely. And that has been a common response as we present this, that we hear the feedback is how that's going to be addressed in the future, because it's definitely not getting brighter in that sense.
Thank you.
KB.
It's KBFO Sioux City of Titusville. We are disappointed to see the deletion of the Space Coast Trail project, but we'll continue to work with DOT and TPO to have it back on the program in a timely manner.
Now, the deletion to that may be coming back. It's just a matter as they reassess the Sun Trail funding on that. So it's a possibility that it could. We're also going to be keeping tracks on it as well. They did include the environmental activities to keep the project moving forward. So that's what you did see, is the environmental still taking forward on that.
I just wanted to echo what our executive director wrote to Secretary Perdue. Oh, excellent. Go ahead, Georgiana.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Chair. No, that I agree with you. I definitely submitted some TPO comments online, through the online public hearing week. And I want to first say that, the partnership that DOT has provided us, this has been a tough year. It's unprecedented times. And quite frankly, I think the carnage could have been much worse with the reduced revenue. We are disappointed about the Space Coast Trail. And to be honest, I wasn't aware that it was funded with Sun Trail funding. I was under the impression it was funded with state funding, DDR. But nevertheless, we understand that the department is going to do whatever they can to move that back in. We are going to submit an objection letter that we are going to take to the board on Thursday. But again, we understand that, you're doing the best that you can. A couple of observations. I know Catherine presented some major projects. These are all top priorities of the TPO. A lot of them aren't new. I mean, these are projects that have been in the work program for a while. The A1A at International Drive intersection, and then the sidewalk to Long Point Road. Very happy to see that that is new state funding for construction. So that has been a top priority for the city of Cape Canaveral. And so finally, we're getting something done in Cape Canaveral, and I'm very excited about that. And I also want to thank the department for assisting Space Florida. Space Florida received, this massive infrastructure grant for Space Commerce Way, as well as the Indian River Bridge, NASA Causeway. And the department worked tirelessly to kind of put the pieces together, because these huge USDOT grants, we all know federal funding has strings, but this is on a different level. And so we thank you for all that hard work in making this project come to fruition, and we thank Space Florida as well. But as we look to the future, we still have Ellis Road widening that we just really want to continue to have those real meaningful discussions on how to get this project fully funded. And that is our #1 priority. And as Bob Musser said, 528, that money's coming out of central office, but anything that could be done to explain to central office how important that we receive that 2.5 million to complete the design for, potentially extending the bridge, the 528 bridge over the Banana River, allowing for the opportunity of causeway removal in the future. So again, we really appreciate the department and all the hard work that they do. We can't do anything, we cannot accomplish what we want without you. And the professionalism is just exceptional. And we do appreciate you, even though we complain sometimes about some of our things not getting funded sooner. We look forward to the new year and working to accomplish these massive goals that we have. So thank you.
Thanks, Georgiana.
Yeah, and Georgiana knows firsthand in her previous career just how difficult and challenging this can be. And I think as the technical advisory committee, we also really appreciate what has to be done, but particularly in a year when revenue forecasts are dropping. I guess I would just echo one of Georgiana's comments in that the Central Florida MPO Alliance has the top priority project in the entire region being Ellis Road. And obviously there's a significant amount of right-of-way to be acquired. But perhaps looking ahead a year from now, what's now year 6, but would become year 5, I think we'd like to see some construction dollars programmed out there. I think we can, the department can reasonably get right away, in a 5-year period, and to start to look towards some construction funding. It's the top priority, not only for this county, but for the entire region. So it's sort of looking ahead this summer and trying to see if that can be a focus for District 5.
Thank you. Acknowledged.
All right. Any other comments? We again appreciate the very good presentation, the high level overview, very succinct, and presuming you'll be doing that for the board as well on Thursday. And I think they'll appreciate that as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That takes us to item 7B, which is the bicycle pedestrian master plan progress.
Is it on? Okay. No. Oh, yeah, it is. All right. So, believe it or not, it has been over a year since we adopted our 2019 bicycle pedestrian master plan. It would have been October of 2020. And so this is our next meeting after that. So we just wanted to provide a really quick update on the progress that we made throughout the last year. There is a completed activities summary, like 1-pager for easy reference, as well as also the PowerPoint in your agendas. So if you recall, we developed 5 goals through the process of developing our bicycle pedestrian master plan. And so I just wanted to walk you through each of the goals, kind of referencing back to the objectives and performance measures that we developed through that process as well. So the first goal was to create a network, which is to establish a well-connected, safe, and comfortable bicycle and pedestrian network. And one of the performance measures we had was to plan, design, or construct 4 miles of additional bicycle and pedestrian facilities. Through various funding sources, projects becoming complete, we have actually right now have 7.24 miles that had progress made on them over the last year. Some of those include the Minton Road feasibility study that we're working on, NASA Boulevard sidewalk that was just referenced, the John Rhodes sidewalk that was a direct priority of our BPAC is moving into construction shortly here. So, and that was a really, really big project. I mean, if you've ever driven by there, it was a cattle path. It was very clearly that there was lots of pedestrians that really needed that sidewalk. There are also multiple resurfacings that we've been able to coordinate with FDOT to get new and improved pedestrian bicycle facilities. One of which is Fisk. I drive by it every day and it brings me such joy to see a sidewalk going in through those gaps. We also have been able to make some progress on our showcase and regional trails. We hosted 16 regional trail meetings last year. Part of that was because of COVID. We had to break down our St. John's River to Sea Loop Summit. But then also part of that's just really trying to develop those regional trail partnerships. So I think we do a really great job in that aspect. Next one is partner with organizations, which is partner to educate, enforce, and engineer safe use of facilities. Kim and Abby did an excellent job this past year working with the pandemic and finding still ways to engage our partners and our public. They conducted Operation Vision Zero in February 2020, and they also conducted the Stop on Red event August 2020. They continued involvement with our community traffic safety team, something that many of you guys are also involved with, completed the Vision Zero action planning, and we conducted 12 safety classes and events at schools. Empower people of all ages and abilities to walk or ride bicycles regularly. As I mentioned previously, we held a series of webinars for the St. John's River to Sea Loop Summit, virtual summit. We had 8 trail focused webinars with people from all over the state and a couple of people from out of the state as well. We completed 8 school routes analysis, which has, we've had 2 applications submitted. Both the City of Melbourne and the City of Palm Bay submitted an application for the Safe Routes to School program because of those projects. Generate awareness, increase awareness of the network, safe practices, and public health benefits. So through the process, we finalized initial mapping of the facilities, and Chelsea and I are working on creating a more dynamic map that really can be used to understand exactly where the trail facilities and where the bicycle facilities are already there to be used by users. The North Brevard Wayfinding Plan is funded in the 2021-2023 Unified Planning Work Program. That scope will be coming to you guys in March. And then we presented the 2019 Bicycle Pedestrian Master Plan to 5 municipalities and the Brevard Sustainability Work Group. I wanted to be able to stand up here and say we presented to every single municipality. Really, the pandemic kind of put the brakes on it, where we really wanted to be able to sit down with people face to face and really dig in and discuss with the municipalities how to move forward. We're going to incorporate that into a larger municipal presentation program. And then finally, pursue equity, pursue equitable distribution of projects, programs, and funding. We began internal conversations to develop an educational and engagement program for marginalized and disadvantaged communities. Continued meetings with municipalities on ADA bus stop improvements, along with Terry Jordan from Space Coast Area Transit. If you've driven by the Cocoa Transit Hub or the Vieira Health Department, bus stop improvements were completed there and they're absolutely beautiful. Development of new project prioritization methodology was completed in March 2020. That was another one of our goals, and we were able to kind of intermingle aspects of equity throughout that process. Finally, COVID-19 impacts, decrease in community and school events. I know that Kim and Abby are just dying to get back out there, and hopefully we'll start to be able to do that again. Increase in online engagement and education, really having to move virtual. We've seen huge attendance spikes in our meetings, as well as also our virtual outreach through social media and such. Increase in use and interest of bicycle and pedestrian facilities. I think we all got bored when we rediscovered the outside and rediscovered how to bike and walk, and it's been really great to see that increase in activity. And there, as we just saw with FDOT work program, there were funding impacts, and we'll continue to see those funding impacts potentially impact our bicycle and pedestrian trail and improvements. So with that, I will answer any questions.
All right. Do we have any questions for Sarah?
Sure, I have a question. Thank you for the presentation. Thanks, Steve. Thank you. Yeah, so my question relates to going forward. Is there an opportunity for the public or, anybody from this this committee to, make recommendations to, additional projects, going forward?
Additional bike ped projects?
Yes.
Well,
and what is that exactly? What would be that?
Well, it would
method?
be through the annual call for projects.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thanks.
Yep. All right, I think I saw Jared.
Thank you. Great presentation again. I just had a question about where you talked about generating awareness and finalizing the initial map of facilities. Is that all available online? And for like a municipality like us, we're kind of working on our GIS stuff too. Or are there any shape files available that we could use?
I think we have the shape files out there for the bike ped master plan already on our shape files page.
Okay.
But you know, me and Chelsea can get with you and send it individually if that would be
Awesome.
be
If
easy.
they're out there, I can find them.
Yep, they're out
Thank
there. Liz.
So this is a shout out to Kim Smith, who's working with the city of Satellite Beach. We're developing our action plan for pedestrian and driver safety. We did adopt the Vision Zero resolution, and now we're putting that to actions. And I will tell you, some of the, between COVID and not being able to get into the schools, not being able to get some of that educational information out there. So we're literally thinking about even doing just public service announcements when they ring the bell in the morning, when the principals get on, just, you know, every day, a little something about crossing the roadway, looking both ways, you know, obey the crossing guards. So if you need any help, Kim has been, I mean, I sent this to her Friday. She gave me back information on Sunday. So that's the dedication of you guys. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Liz. I just wanted to also say appreciate what Melbourne is doing with their sidewalk project on Country Club Drive. That's a difficult being in an older neighborhood, but it's sure looking really good. So Jenny and your team, that's a great sidewalk project. I'm sure it'll get a lot of use. Devin.
Scott, thank you. Sarah, great presentation. Mine's more of a challenge for our partners in the room right here. Kim and I and DOT have been on the CTST committee for almost 20 years, and it pretty much makes up FHP, TPO, Brevard County. Every once in a while we'll get a city come, but that's it. We need our partners in the cities to start attending this.
Devin, can you tell them a little bit about what the CTST is and does?
Kim, you might be able to help me, but what we do is we look at problems that cities, citizens, DOT bring to the DOT, and the DOT will do studies on intersections. We'll look for sidewalks. We'll look for problems that are with traffic signals, lack of sidewalks that need to be repaired. I mean, everything from any kind of traffic safety issue you have in your city or anywhere you see in Brevard County, anywhere, we look at it, and we don't have the representation. We used to have representation from the city police departments. They get gung-ho, they come, everything, and then 3 months later, they're gone. So that's my challenge to the group.
All right. Thank you, Devin. So everybody hears that we have this opportunity to put a little more into action the Vision Zero that we all have adopted and support. And so there's an opportunity to help put that into action, as Liz indicated, wanting to put that into action in Satellite Beach, and we can all be doing some things that can enhance safety. All right. Other comments, questions?
All right. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you, Sarah. That takes us to item 8C, public engagement.
We're still on report. That was just 7B.
Yeah, so that takes us, oh, I am so sorry. I saw the Bicycle Pedestrian Trails Advisory Committee. Let's move to reports. Florida Department of Transportation. Thank you very much for straightening us out.
Good morning. Anna Taylor, Florida DOT. I just wanted to let you know that we made some adjustments to your construction reports in your packets. We have a new format, hoping that it's a little bit easier to read. So if you guys have any comments on that, or if you'd like to see anything that we forgot, please let us know. At this time, we don't have any upcoming public meetings in your area, and that completes my report.
I happen to like the new format. I don't know if anybody else saw that, but it's very clear and obviously for those that are affecting localities, those are things that can be put on our own websites and get that communication out to the public. So thought those were well done. All right, now we're coming to the Bicycle Pedestrian Trails Advisory Committee.
Not to be confused with the Bike Ped Master Plan.
There you
go. So we met January 25th. It was our first meeting of the year, so we conducted a lot of just kind of annual business, such as approving the calendar. We elected our new chairs, who chair is Angelica Keene. For those that don't know her, she is with UF IFAS Extension. She is a healthcare educator or a health resource educator, so provides really great insight. And then Alan Woolwich, who works for Brevard County Housing and Human Services. So 2 great bike ped individuals. We adopted our 2021 BPAC action plan that basically outlines all the activities that the BPAC hopes to accomplish over the next year. We approved the BPAC award nominations. Those will be presented in March. The same presentation you just received. And then we're starting a new program with the BPAC, which is Member Showcase. And so as we all know, we have a very long, thin county, and sometimes we can get stuck in our little municipalities or where we live. And I know I'm very guilty of it because I live in Rockledge and work in Vieira, so that's my bubble. And so we thought this member showcase would give an opportunity for the members to actually highlight what great bike ped trail things are happening in their community, or what are some of the problems in their community, and basically be able to share with everyone, because our member in Titusville probably doesn't get down to Malabar or Grant Valcaria very often, and vice versa. So I think it will be a really great and enlightening opportunity for our BPAC members to share about bicycle pedestrian improvements in their area. So unless anyone has any questions, that's all I have today.
All right, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to the public engagement report. I don't see Abby in the room. Is she online? Okay, Abby, you're up.
Hello, good morning. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, I'm Abby Hemingway. I apologize for not being there in person today. I look forward to meeting our new members. I am the Public Involvement Officer for the Space Coast TPO, and I'm just going to touch on a few public engagement activities. And first, we're going to actually start with kind of looking back at 2020 to kind of go on theme with what we've been talking about. 2020 saw a lot of challenges. And I don't think an industry went untouched by COVID-19, but it's really important to make sure that we also celebrate our wins. So we're going to look back at 2020. And here's our top 10 favorite moments of last year. Next slide. So first, we had lots of a few new corridors open, and these 2 were our most anticipated that opened. We had the St. John's Heritage Parkway in the south area at the MICO and I-95 interchange. And that officially opened in late summer. And that was huge. It was a huge groundbreaking event, and it'll get a lot more cars on a north-south corridor. We also, of course, had the Ellis interchange at I-95. We all know that that is now a brand new corridor that goes right into the heart of multiple transportation modes, and an area that has a lot of residential and business activity. So that was a huge win. It was, I think, one of the longest projects that we had on our tip for a really long time. So we're very excited about that. Next slide. And as Sarah mentioned, public involvement really changed last year. We couldn't really get out on the street and talk to people. So that kind of forced us to learn some new tools and technologies really to engage the public. But we're happy to say that our first 2 events last year that went virtual had the highest attendance that we had seen. So our open house and our first meeting for the Mitten Road feasibility study both saw over 60 participants, and there was just extreme engagement, and I actually think it gave more people access to learn about transportation planning, and especially when it's happening in their own backyard. Next slide. And then we also had major safety improvements last year. Of course, we had the A1A Pedestrian Safety Project, where we had new crossings that went in. We also had the lowering of the speed limit on A1A, which was huge. And then we also had some intersection improvements at A1A and 520. So this isn't to be overlooked. This was a major change for this area. And we continue to work with our partners like Satellite Beach, Indian Harbor, Indian Atlantic, Melbourne Beach, to make sure that we're spreading the word about pedestrian safety and really making this area accessible and safe. Next slide. And then we did have some outreach. We were lucky to be able to work with some of our partners to still get out there and spread the word in a safe way. So these were our top 3 events that we did last year. Stop on Red Week, Sarah had touched on that before. We worked with Brevard Sheriff's Office and the National Coalition for Safer Roads. We also did School Bus Safety Week, which was a really fun event. And of course, Mobility Week, which you heard about last year. Even though a lot of that was virtual, we still had a lot of engagement. So it's important to touch back on the things that went well and that we enjoyed in 2020. Next slide. And then we also had some major plans that happened in 2020. We had the completion of our 2045 long-range transportation plan. That was 2 years in the making. It's a long process. Steve, project manager, Steven Bostel, he did an amazing job. We also had the completion of our Vision Zero action plan under the project manager of Kim Smith, and that was also a huge takeaway. It was a brand new plan, and you know, these things are not to go unnoticed, and so we really need to be our own cheerleaders sometimes. I know that's hard. Next slide. So Happy New Year, we're excited, and now we're going to talk about some upcoming public involvement activities for the month of February. Next slide. So February, as most of you know, is Black History Month. We always take this opportunity to highlight some major figures in transportation. And so we've already shared some stuff out on social media, but I'm really excited to start to engage our public and really highlight some of these major influencers and innovators really in transportation. So very excited, and stay tuned to our social media outlets for that. Next slide. We also have our phase 2 public meeting for the Mitten Road feasibility study coming up on February 17th. It is virtual. It's going to be in a webinar format beginning at 5:30 p.m. And if you're interested, you can sign up to register online. This is a huge project. We've already, I think, have over 100 attendees registered. We're really excited. We're partnering with a lot of different communities and businesses to make sure that we get the word out. And next slide, you can see we have the link here if you want to go and register. It's also on our Facebook and on our Twitter. And our website, if you want to go and review our final concepts and findings for the study, is already available at www.mittenroadstudy.com. You can go ahead and preview that information there, and then bring any questions or comments to the meeting, the virtual meeting on the 17th. And there is a full-size flyer in your package in case you needed to rip it out or hand it to anyone that you may know that lives, works, or plays near Mitten Road. It's a huge corridor. Many people take it to commute as well. So it's seeing a lot of interest already. Next slide. And then finally, coming up in March, March has a lot of different activities coming up, but one that we're really going to highlight is that it's Bike Month. So we're going to be hopefully doing some cool stuff on social media, some videos, and working with some of our local partners. And so stay tuned for any of that. And please, as always, advocacy starts with our committees and with our members and with our partners. So anything that you can share out on our behalf that applies to your agency or your organization, we would really, really appreciate it. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Abby. Do you have any questions for Abby? Very good presentation, as always. Seeing none, we thank you, Abby. And next is the transfer report. So Terry?
Good morning, everyone. Terry Jordan, Space Coast Area Transit Planner. This morning, I'm providing the transit report on what we expect to be a major accomplishment coming up in the not too distant future, early April. Space Coast Area Transit has not implemented a new route for maybe just over 2.5 years, which was Route 20 that serves the West Melbourne area and Southwest Palm Bay. So in April, we're going to be implementing two brand new routes and a route that's going to be cut in half to provide better frequency. The areas that we're providing a new service is going to be the central Titusville area. We've been receiving numerous requests for service in that area over the last several years with the development that's been going on. So we're now able to provide service through areas like De Leon and other portions of central Titusville. So from my understanding, being recognized as a area that has been needing service for a while, the residents will be very excited to see this service being implemented in that area. The second service area that we're providing brand new service has been considered a transit desert, which is the Port St. John area. Sorry. Thank you. The Port St. John area. So this area has been an area that has been in need for service for a very long time. Many years, and we've finally received funding and have the ability to provide service in this area. So service on both of these routes will operate on a 1-hour headway, which means the bus will serve any designated location on the route every hour, with the exception of the lunch period during Saturdays, which it skips an hour and then comes back into service after midday. So these are two areas that we're excited to see the service implemented and expect that it will kick off with a bang and actually will receive good ridership to start off, because we currently see the residents in the area walk in these corridors, and we suspect that they will be very excited as well to see service implemented. The last area that we're changing service is for our beaches and South Patrick area. Currently, the service operates on a 2-hour headway, which means if you are catching the bus and you miss it, it's 2 hours before it shows up again on any portion of this route. So what we're doing is actually cutting the route in half right at the O'Galley Boulevard area and Canova Beach Park. And what we will do is service each segment of the route on 1-hour frequencies. So the route will now operate from 13th Street up to Canova Beach, then to Publix and back. And then the other portion of the service will operate from Canova Beach over the causeway down to the Melbourne Airport and then back over to that area. Once again, these two frequencies have now been reduced to once an hour. So anytime you want to catch the bus, it's there every hour. There's one portion of the roadway that does not continue to receive service heading north. However, with the implementation of the hour headway, we expect that the passengers will still see better frequency and service than they currently have with the bus going by once every 2 hours. So those are 3 routes that we expect, once again, with the implementation, that we receive positive feedback, increased ridership on these areas, and we suspect that there will be successful improvements to the service. An additional component that I did not include here is Route 6, which operates on an hourly frequency on Saturdays. Will now go to 30-minute service. There's been a request for this service because we can see the capacity concerns, the overcrowding potentially. That has happened on some times, so now we're going to improve that service to 30-minute frequency every Saturday instead of the hourly frequency that it does have. Those are the areas that we're providing additional service. Sarah mentioned this earlier. I want to add to it. If you have seen the new shelters that have been installed at the government center and also currently at the at the government center and the new areas also that you're seeing recently, we're having Merritt Island as the newest location. If you've been out along 520, you can see the very bold transit shelters that have been installed. They have bike repair stations, solar lighting, a myriad of options. So if you get out there, you can see one of these things that are completely different than what we've done in the past. And our next partner being Satellite Beach, we expect that they'll have just as bold and identifiable transit stops as well in the not too distant future, as soon as we get that project going up in the next couple of months, we hope. So that's pretty much it. I know the transit asset management plan has been included. This is from our director, Scott Nelson. This is pretty much an overview just to give some information of what we're providing to the TPO board for their approval or information in this next coming board meeting. So it's more or less an information purposes item for this meeting. So if there are no questions, that's it for me.
All right. Do you have any questions for Terry? All right. Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
report. And glad to be seeing some expanded services up in the Titusville, North Brevard area. That's great news. All right, so that takes us to item 8E, which is a local government report. So does anybody have anything that they'd like to report to the group? Yes, Jared.
Jared Francis, City of Cocoa Beach. Just wanted to update on a couple things going on in our area. January 12th, DOT held a meeting about 4 proposed RRFBs at mid-block crossings in Cocoa Beach. And the city's kind of official position now is that we are opposed to them as designed. Obviously, we recognize the need for safety improvements and all that, but right now we don't feel that RRFBs are the way to go. We had also had a resident who was hearing impaired call in and express his frustration with them because there's no audible sound to let him know the lights are even flashing. So right now we just feel like we got to have some improvements, and I bring it up now in part because shortly after the meeting I got an email from one of DOT's consultants asking for comments on 12 new proposed RRFBs at mid-block crossing. So just wanted to make sure that was out there and everyone was aware of that. And then also, regrettably, I missed the first transportation resiliency meeting, but we also will be pushing to raise 520. There was a letter or a resolution actually that just recently surfaced from the Cocoa Beach City Commission to the MPO at the time, asking 30 years ago for the causeway to be raised. And it's frustrating to me now looking and saying, had someone followed through with that, you would probably be pretty close to it by now. And so I just don't want to look back and, 30 years from now, we're saying, okay, let's get it scheduled. And so I'll be working with Sarah and to try to make sure that that's programmed appropriately. I'm still relatively new to the TPO, so I'm still figuring out what I'm doing here, but I want to make sure that that is noted and moving. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you for those updates. Do we have other local government updates? Yeah, go ahead, Robert.
Thanks, Scott. Good morning, Bob Musser of Port Canaveral. Couple quick things. We held our January commission meeting. It was about 2 weeks ago. Major budget correction was done at the port. The budget is basically based on return to cruising sometime around July. And the budget is very conservative in that it has 4 lines operating 1 ship apiece at 50% capacity. We continue to work with our local and federal partners on doing everything we can to move returning to cruising back safely, and we'll continue to do that. You may have noticed, I think it was yesterday, there was a front page article about the port and the ripple effects on the economic impacts that have been felt throughout the entire community. We're doing everything we can to work with our partners. It's been a tough time at the port, and we continue to move forward. On some good news, our LNG liquid natural gas fireboat arrived a couple weeks ago. That's now at the port. Appreciate all all the support we got and all the funding support, both from the state and federal agencies. The Carnival Mardi Gras, that is going to be the first LNG powered cruise ship, is undergoing sea trials, and that is expected a couple months from now. So we'll have more information on that coming up. As is the bunker barge that will provide the fuel, that is undergoing sea trials right now. So a lot going on. Our next commission meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, February 24th. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So you think this was the only major budget amendment that's going to be needed this budget year? Obviously, we're a third of the way through it already, but
this was our mid-year budget correction, and we're not quite at mid-year. As our CEO, Captain John Murray, stated, we basically ripped the Band-Aid off and took a very hard look at where we expect to be. The port is in good, financial standing for at least for the next year, if not longer. But this still covers, our debt services. The budget has been reduced down to about 43 million. That covers our debt services, and again, it anticipates things starting very slowly. And if there needs to be another one down the road, then we'll certainly have that. But our hope is a few months from now we'll start to see this return. There are some cruise lines that are operating. I believe there's one out of Europe that is currently operating. They're requiring all passengers to have had the COVID vaccine to go on the ship. So we're just not sure what's going to happen. We're working with the CDC and the new director that's come in, as all the cruise lines. So.
all right. Well, we all wish you well. We know that that's been very devastating financially. So. All right, Devin.
Thank you. I've got 3 projects. One's wrapping up right now. It's the St. John's Heritage Parkway Phase 2 ITS project. We're pretty much in it, just paperwork phases of it. That's new fiber, new cameras, all that. I need a causeway overpass. I'm sure everybody's interested in that. It's nearing completion as well. We've got the new signal at Holy Trinity in place, final configuration. And they tell me late summer or early fall. And I want to echo what Sarah said about the John Rhodes Boulevard sidewalk. I pass that location at least once a day, maybe twice a day. I've never gone by there without seeing a pedestrian walking down there. And it's going to go from O'Galley Boulevard to Aurora Road. And the county is also working on a sidewalk. This is the 3rd time I think we've designed it in 20 years for Aurora Road, from John Rhodes to Wickham.
All right, thanks, Devin. Hey, I had a question too on the Minton ITS. I know we still got a couple of gaps in there to complete that, and some on our council had inquired about that status. I know you had manual retimings a little bit ago that helped a lot, but do we know when that's going to get completed?
I apologize, Scott. I do not.
Okay,
I do not. I'll get back
with me offline, because we've had some queries with the Minton corridor study coming up as to when that might be completed. All right. Any other local government reports? Yes.
I'm gonna type, might have typed on us.
That's good.
There it is. Now that I have your attention, I'm Abby Johnson. I'm with the St. Johns River Water Management District. Just want to put a plug in that We have an application cycle open right now for cost share projects. Those applications are due February 19th. We have a governing board meeting tomorrow, and it is available online via YouTube for live stream. Just want to give a shout out to all of our partners in the room for the multiple projects that we have going on, and just thank you very much for your support. And I am your intergovernmental coordinator, and I'm available anytime.
All right, thank you for that. And I know a lot of us are taking advantage of those grant opportunities to help supplement some of the Indian River Lagoon half-tent sales tax for some projects that benefit the lagoon. So we appreciate St. John's and that ability to fund a third of the construction on some of those environmentally beneficial projects. So thank you very much. Other local government reports? Anybody online would want to address those in the room? All right, not hearing anyone, we will adjourn this meeting of the Technical Advisory Committee, and we will meet again March 8th. Thank you very much.